On these developments, I'm joined by Ed Mills now. He's Washington policy analyst at Raymond James. Ed, it's good to bring you in. And Scalise, what more detail are you looking for here, and where do we go from here?
Well, 113 is not 217. So what I'm looking for here is how does he chip into the 99 members who voted for Jim Jordan? Is there a deal to be had? There is an opening in House leadership if Scalise becomes the speaker. You have a majority leader slot open. Is that something you give to Jim Jordan? Is that moving up others like Tom Emmer into the majority leader spot and doing that? Ultimately, for the markets, which we're always focused, obviously, on, Kelly, if it is Steve Scalise, he has already told his caucus that we most likely need a continuing resolution come November. That's a positive for the markets. He's more likely to bring forward some defense spending for Israel, Ukraine, and probably with that, some border funding as well.
So if he can get through the main vote and become speaker, you think there's slightly lower odds of a government shutdown?
I do, because he's told the caucus that they need to have another continuing resolution. There is no way to get the 12 appropriations bills through both the House and the Senate before November 17th. One thing that I've really been focusing and telling folks at Raymond James to watch is that on November 15th, President Biden is supposed to sit down with General Secretary Xi of China. Do we want to have this internal squabble, especially with the geopolitical risk on the world stage as those two leaders are meeting? That could be a part of the reason why they would want to punt beyond November 17th, maybe have this fight once again in December.
Although, what about some of the more conservative parts of his, the same guests who I saw who were part of ousting McCarthy, what part of their frustration was we keep doing these CRs and they're not satisfied with that. And so, if they know that that's what Scalise intends to do, then might they prevent him from becoming speaker?
Yeah, Kelly. So I think if it goes on the floor more than 3 or 4 rounds, that's when we have a conversation about, is there another candidate that emerges? Is it back to a Speaker McCarthy? Do they choose someone else, like the temporary speaker, Patrick McHenry? Do they draft someone? I think that would be a market positive, because the more this smaller group does not allow you to do anything, the more I think that in the long term might lose power. And so it is market neutral if it is Scalise, maybe actually surprisingly a potential market positive, Kelly, if they end up going around the current two.
And I'm trying to just connect those dots one more time. It would be a market positive if we see some drama and uncertainty around the speakership. Why exactly?
Because of what the outcome would be. If you get a speaker who does not necessarily want this, they probably are more in position to negotiate from a period of strength, rather than what we saw earlier with McCarthy. Do you remove the motion to vacate? Is there a potential deal with Democrats? Near term, none of this is good. All of this is dysfunction. But I'd say if it's Scalise, less likely government shutdown, not guaranteed, just on the margin. Or if they go outside this group, do we have the fight taken out of this group near term for those medium and longer term victories? That's actually what we saw in January, where a lot of fighting at that early period, and then McCarthy was able to get bipartisan bills to the floor, ultimately cost him his speakership. But from a market perspective, during the first half of this year, pretty decent for the market.
That's fascinating to think through. One quick final question, Ed. What do you think about timing for this full House vote now?
I think it's going to be at least into tomorrow. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on the House not to leave for the weekend before they get done. Kelly, I always talk to you about deadlines. Members of Congress do want to go home. That could be a forcing mechanism. So it easily could spill beyond. But these events, and if we do get another front in this war in Israel, that will only add to the pressure to wrap this up sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Ed, thanks so much. We appreciate it today.
Thank you,
Ed Mills
Kelly.
with Raymond James.